couple of points here. Tersse back in Oscar boxing. A couple of points here on what's happening in America. John Boehner said, oh, we shouldn't be talking about not funding the government. No, we're not going to shut the government down. And then they shut the government down. And now John Boehner is saying, we're not going to default on America's full credit. No, that's never going to happen. And then, he says we're not going to pass a Queen debt ceiling limit, guys. So what are people missing here? The Republicans, John Boehner, who could bring a CR resolution to the House, a Queen CR to the House, refuses to do it, and the government shuts down. Then he says, and before that he says that was never going to happen. They were never going to close the government down. That's not what it's about. Well, we don't even want to talk about closing the government down, and then they close the government down. Now he's saying they're not going to default on America's debt, and it's just never going to happen. Then he says, well, we're not going to pass a Queen debt ceiling limit, a Queen debt ceiling limit. No way. Obama and the Democrats have got to capitulate and give us what we want, or we're going to default. So what Boehner do you trust? The guy who keeps saying, oh, we're not going to shut the government down, and then shuts it down. And now he keeps saying, we're not going to default on government debt paying. What can you take from what he's done in the past? Well, he said in the past he wasn't going to do something, and he did it. And now he's saying again, we're not going to do something. And we're only, 10 days, 11 days away, 9 days away from it happening. And now he's saying, that there's no way you're getting a Queen, raise and the amount of money that the government, borrows to pay its debts. And then you've got this other part. The Republicans keep saying, well, it's not a default if you state you're going to pay the interest and then promise to pay the rest of the money later. But think about it, they keep comparing the government should run like a household. People in their houses don't do the things the government's doing. Like borrow more than they can afford, and then refuse to pay it. But actually, a lot of households do that. That's why we had the crash in 2007, 2008. Because people borrowed more than they could pay and then didn't pay it. So that is how households run. But governments aren't supposed to run like that, and American government has never run like that. But they say, well, so long as we promise we're going to pay you later, and we pay the interest, then everything should be fine. But just take it, if you're a household and you've got a mortgage, and your mortgage is £100 a month, right? 29% of that is interest. Or probably better to say credit card. You've got a credit card, and you have to pay £100 a month on your credit card. And the interest on it is 29%. See, well, that's what it's like in Britain, it's 29% on your credit. So if you spend 71 quid, or whatever, you pay 29%, it takes up to £100 a month. If you turn around to your bank or your credit card, provider and says, I've not got the £100 this month, but there's a £29 interest. Is that okay? They're going to turn around and say, oh, you've defaulted, you haven't paid the other 71 quid, you know what I mean? Where's my other 71%? You paid me the 29% interest, but I want the 71% you're supposed to pay every month. Is that the state of America's government is going to be in? Oh, here you are, we're going to pay you the 10% interest on the money we owe you, but we're not going to pay you the other 90%. We're going to use that to pay 10% on that guy, and 10% that guy, and 10% that guy, and 10%. But no, and all you guys getting your 10% interest, you're just going to have to be happy. We're actually not going to be paying down the actual money we borrowed, we're just going to give you the interest on it. As far as I can go, but through law, and this is just my recollections of dealing with banks and people who loan you money here in the UK. If you want to just pay the interest on a sum of money you borrowed, you actually have to negotiate that before you start just paying the interest. It's not a decision you can make yourself. You can't just decide, you know what, I'm just going to pay my bank 29 quid this month on my housing loan, you know. And then I'll go and negotiate with them about paying the other 71%. I'm sure they'll be happy with that. That's not the way that the financial world works. It certainly is not the way that it works between governments, that you can borrow £1 billion from, say, you know, Germany, and then say, you know, well, here's the £300,000 interest on it, but that other £50,000, £500,000 we're supposed to pay this month or this year, we'll promise to pay you that later. That's not the way that international finance works. So the Republican idea where you can just default, you know what I mean, at the end of this month and promise to pay the money later but give them the interest, that's you defaulting. When you go and actually say to people, you know, we're paid you the interest on the last loan, can we borrow another 800 billion? They're going to turn around and say, well, fuck that. You're not paying us the money on the last 800 billion we gave you, you know what I mean? Why should we lend you another 800 billion? We don't just want the interest, we want you to pay the money down. Otherwise, how are we sure that you're not going to take this 800 billion and then not even pay us the interest the next time? You know? That's the financial situation America's in. You have to raise the debt ceiling in order to pay people not just the interest, but to pay down the loan. Otherwise, why would they even think about giving you any more money? Because even if you default and pay the interest, that still doesn't get your fucking debt limit below what you're taking in. So you're still going to have to go to somebody and ask them for more money. And why would they give you more money when they don't think they're ever going to get it back? That's the situation you're in America. You know, I don't see the problem here. You've got to open the government up. You've got to raise your fucking debt limit. And then you've got to go into conference and fucking get a budget that eventually over the next 10 or 20 years brings your debt down. You can't do it overnight. You can't do it this year. It can't be done between now and January the 1st. So what the fuck are you arguing about? Open your government up, raise your debt limit, and then get into conference and hash it out how you're going to pay your debts, reduce your fucking reduce your deficits, and over a period of time balance your budget. This idea that the crazy Tea Party have of if we just crash the economy and you know nobody will lend us any money, which means we just can't afford to pay for anything, you know, and then you know, well, America's going to live in a cardboard box under a bridge somewhere until you get a job. Is this the idea of America? You know, well, until we find some super way to make some money, but we're just going to live in a cardboard box under a bridge. I mean, this is the sort of thing that the Republicans hate: people living in a cardboard box and getting money, being able to borrow. That's ridiculous. But America's going to be living in a cardboard box under a bridge in world terms, because nobody in the world is going to see a down and out fucking borrower defector, you know, not paying the money. We're not going to give you any money. We're not going to bail you out. We're going to sit back and watch you fucking collapse and burn. And yes, it will have an effect on us. Some other countries around the world might collapse and burn, you know what I mean? The world economy is looking like a piece of shit. But then, as a socialist, no, I'm not totally a socialist, but I'm a socialist in the aspects of you need to pay your debt, yeah, but sometimes you have to borrow some money and invest it in order to make money, in order to clear your debt and be left with some. America seems to think now that it's, this idea of borrowing money to invest, I mean, it's great for businesses, but it's not good for a government. Why is a government different from a business? A business borrows money all the time, but it always pays its debt back because it knows that next year it may have to borrow some more fucking money to keep going to pay its debts. Why is a government any different? I just don't understand this crazy Tea Party fucking idea that if we just crash the economy so that, you know, America becomes a fucking deadbeat in the world and nobody will own you any money, then that that will solve our problem of ever rising deficits. Eventually we will just have to go back to being a banana republic. You know, I don't know, people will just have to die, I suppose. And, you know, millions of people will just have to die, and then we'll build ourselves back up, as if we just suffered a defeat in a war. You remember Germany after the Second World War? Totally crushed, no economy, completely fucked, and it depended on other people investing in it. But that's not going to happen with America. If America crashes, who the fuck's going to give you any money to dig your way out of this shit? Nobody. Because we're all going to be in the same boat. We're going to need our own money for ourselves. You're not going to get any money. You're not going to pull yourself out of this shit, you know? You can't afford to leave your government unfunded, and you can't afford not to raise your debt limit. That is the facts of the matter. And you can't blame Obama and the Democrats for turning around and saying that is the reality, so let's deal with it, Republicans. Doesn't matter how many Tea Party wankers you've got in the Republican side of that government you've got over there. They need to realise crashing the economy is not a benefit to America. It's not even a benefit for their idea of small government. Because basically what you're going to have if you do crash the economy, the government's going to be even more important than it is now for saving millions of people starving to death. So I can only say they lose on every count, no matter where you look at this. Swansea fucking var.